It's time for Tetris talk. Woo! That's the closest I have to a theme song. Hello! We're doing it! We're playing Tetris at some point. It's been a while since I've done this. I had a couple of weeks off. Woo! Hassani is watching. We love to see it. So had a couple of weeks off, just had like a ton of things on my plate, just figuring out a bunch of things. It's been an exciting couple of weeks. And then I'm going to be off another couple of weeks because I'm about to move. So I'm not going to have my computer for potentially 10 days to 2 weeks. I don't know. So there's going to be another little gap after this. But I was like, I got to do one more before I leave because, you know, I don't want to abandon. I've come to really enjoy this show format and I don't want to abandon it. So I was like, I gotta come back and do this. Restreambot put my chat message in Twitch from Hassani. Oh, you're figuring out. Yeah, I set up the bot so if you comment on Twitch, it should go to YouTube and vice versa. I don't know. We'll see if it works. You'll be on Twitch until about 9:30. Okay, cool. I'll take what I can get, Hassani. You're welcome all of the time. Anyway, I'm going to bring on my guest. So my guest this evening is Kimberly Banks-Brown. She is just an incredible human being. I was introduced to her by our mutual friend, Rachel Miller. So I have this production company that's like very, very slowly building up. I was like, I'm going to do this big fancy launch. Woo! And then I realized like how much effort was going to have to go into every single individual thing I wanted to do. And I was like, oh, I don't think I can do all this at once. But when I was trying to figure out how to make it work, my real goal with it was to try to build an online community, like a space where comedians and performers who normally perform in theater spaces can come in and do virtual shows on the internet. And I would take care of all the tech and the production and direction and all that stuff so they could just like show up and play and it would be great. But I really wanted to make sure that it was a place where everybody felt supported and welcome, where everyone had a place. And so I was like, I really need like a community director, or like at first I was calling it like a diversity director because I was like, I have so many blind spots, like we all do. And it's important to have someone, I think, who can help call you out on those blind spots. So I'd posted on Facebook and I was like, I'm looking for someone to help fill this role, somebody who is just like excited about trying to make things and get creative and just like build a nice, happy place that helps bring joy to people. And my friend Rachel Miller was like, you got to meet my friend Kim. And she put us in touch and we had this phone call and it was amazing. I'll let her tell you a little bit more about herself, but please welcome Kimberly Banks-Brown. We're doing it.
What's up?
Okay, wait, so you're in St. Louis right now, but you're normal. Where are you based? DC?
I'm based out of the DC area. Yeah, we call it the DMV.
The DM, what does that stand for?
For the District, Maryland, and Virginia.
Okay, yeah. I had made a friend at a summer music festival who was from like the Virginia part of DC. And she was like, yeah, it's all just kind of like a big, yeah.
DC is only 10 miles big.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny. But it's big enough, but aren't they're trying to become a state?
Yes.
Like their own separate state.
They've been trying that for a while.
Would that include the DMV or would that literally only be the literal district?
Then the D would actually be a state like the M and the V. So they would, because right now they don't get a senator or a governor or any of that because they're not a state. So
yeah,
no taxation without representation.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so I'm gonna start my game. No representation. That's right, Hassani. All right. We're going to start on the game. So this is, what's happening here? Oh no, my controller is not working. Okay, hang on 1 second. I have to unplug it and plug it back in. That's how the original NES works.
You got it.
Let's see if that did it.
Let's see if it made it. One more time. The second time's the trick. No. Okay, maybe the third time's the trick. Oh, come on, technology.
I know. I'm actually shocked that if this is like literally my original NES from 1984.
Oh,
So I'm shocked that
wow.
it's literally never failed. Of 5 different episodes of this, it's worked every single time. So
Wow.
I think that's pretty. Those are good numbers for that kind of old
That's amazing.
technology.
That's
Okay.
amazing.
All right, now we're in business. Oh yeah. Okay, let's put this mic down. Okay. Let me get a breath and slow down. I
Ooh.
Part of what's great about this format is that like I'm like a high energy chatty Kathy. And so like having this is really good because it's like 60% of my brain just has to focus on this
Yes.
and then it slows down everything else.
Yes.
Like, you know?
Every APD dream, right?
I know. That's there's what's his name? Craig Mazin wrote Chernobyl and a bunch of other movies and TV shows and stuff. But he talked about that like he really struggled with anxiety and he would like beat himself up because he was like, I always have to be moving and I always have to and it's driving me crazy and I've tried all these different techniques to like not do that. And then he like I don't know if it was a therapist that told him this or if he just had the realization, but he was like watching a dog chew a bone and he was like, "Oh, the dog doesn't chew the bone because it's getting food. It's not it just chews the bone because it needs to chew the bone, and that's
Yes.
fine." And he was like, "Maybe that my brain just needs to work really
Yes.
fast." Like, okay,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
So,
Totally true. Like when I go to bed at night, it's very common for me to turn on a lecture or audio interview and listen to talking to go to sleep because
really,
otherwise I'll start thinking of my own junk. But as long as I'm listening to somebody else's junk, I can go to sleep.
see, and my struggle with that, I used to listen to the radio as a kid when I was trying to sleep, but I like now I'm such a sucker for narrative that I can't do it. Like I can't start something and not finish it. So the song begins and I have to hear the ending even if I've heard it a million
I
times.
know.
Like
I know.
I can't watch TV cuz I'll not like I mean I will be just like painfully
My point
tired
exactly.
and I can't. I'm just like
My point exactly.
oh
Is
man.
why and I tried listening to the guided meditations, but that's still guidance, right? So then I'm like, well, I can't go to sleep because I don't want to miss any instruction that they're giving me to be
I have to succeed at this meditation.
So I was like, so I go to bed listening to anatomy and physiology or
Oh God.
neuroplasticity, which is stuff I like, but it's far enough above my intellectual reach that I don't even have to worry about trying to understand what it's saying. So it just,
It's like, you know what? Just pick up what you can, leave the
yeah,
rest behind. It's okay.
right. I tell myself subliminally, I'm much smarter. I'm much smarter when I'm sleeping. So this is going to work out perfectly.
That's amazing. I went to the Met Museum today, and for the first like 30 minutes, I went to the Egypt room first. And I was so fascinated. I hated museums as a kid, and as I've gotten older, I've just come to really appreciate like seeing traces of humanity from that long ago and feeling that little bit of hope that it's like, like I know that you're a religious person. Do you believe in an afterlife, that you go to heaven, like that kind of thing? What do you believe happens when we die, if you don't mind sharing?
I'll tell you, I used to have I don't think this is in the DSM-5 or anything, but I used to have like death, anxiety, attack, panic syndrome, neurosis. Okay. And so when I ever thought about death, I would freak totally out. And what really got me cool was when I grasped the reality that all matter is eternal. Like it never goes away. It just morphs into different shit.
Yeah.
And so I was like, wow. And so I started looking at nebulas. And I was like, so basically, I'm just gonna go back to like a star. Yeah. So I have kind of like this weird idea that our consciousness kind of eventually just fades out. Like it doesn't leave right away. Like it hangs around
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
just kind of, slowly, like maybe sometimes over years or even a decade or generation, but our energy, it just gets recycled.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I just finished finally The Good Place. I went back and like picked back up and followed
Me
through
too!
to the end. Oh my god, it was so good. And I loved the way that they ended. I loved kind of like what they describe, like how they described like heaven and hell, that I was like, yeah,
Yes.
that felt like a
Yes.
version of it that I'm like, all right, I can get into this.
Yes.
But
Totally.
but anyway, so back to the Egypt room, that it was like just looking around and seeing that and realizing like I think that I've actually had some form of death anxiety for most of my life. Like just the idea of impermanence to me has always been
Yes.
terrifying. Like I think that's part of why I wanted to make film and television. Just this idea that it's like, oh, your movie exists forever, your story exists forever, and anybody can watch it. You know, despite the fact that I never watch old movies. Like, that's just not my jam. I'm not
So those folks are just dead. No.
Yeah, no. I'm like, well, at least they did preserve it, but I'm not interested in it, so I'm not. But, but like going to that, like, and just now being in museums just feels like being a smaller part of a bigger cosmic picture. But then also it makes me think of, like, I always just kind of thought, oh, I guess cremation, like, because that's weird to have, like, a whole, just, like, hole in the ground that eventually gets abandoned and forgotten, and then it's just, like, sad. So I was like, oh, cremation. And then seeing all the things where it's like, oh, and then they get buried with this thing, and now we have this thing to look at and know what these people's lives were like. I'm like, well, I want that. Like, I want to, but I don't know. You don't need to pull my brain out through my nose and put it in a jar necessarily.
Right. And I hope that, like, at this point, I said I want to be cremated, but I'm an organ donor. Really, what I would love is for my whole body, everything, to just go to some lab to be donated to science, and I'm an organ donor. So, like, after you get all the good stuff, then just take that carcass and take it to some, museum. And, that would be my preference. Like, if I could do that.
Give it to an artist.
Yeah.
see what they do with it. Like, I don't know.
Study. Why is my skin so damn dry? Like, how far am I from my reptilian relatives? You know what I'm saying? Like, do some research.
That's amazing. I don't know what happened. My skin suddenly got really, really dry a couple of months ago. Like, I had a couple of weird body things where, like, of course I look into it and I'm like, oh, these are all potentially side effects of COVID, but I've tested negative every time. But yeah, my skin just super dried out, and I no explanation for it. It's still there. It's so I don't know what happened. That's okay.
Yeah, it's just called over 30. That's all.
Me? Yeah, I don't know. Aging is so hard. Okay.
Grace.
You have 3 master's degrees, is that correct?
That is true.
That's true. Are you in school of some kind right now? Or are you currently...
No, I'm not!
Nice.
Thank God.
Okay, you're teaching elementary school?
I am.
Is that correct? Okay, beautiful little babies. How is that? Are you in person?
I love it. Oh no, we're not in person now. So
okay, good.
And but there are schools. So the district that I work for is not going back, but there are a couple of districts in the DMV who are supposed to go back in November, and it's just blowing my mind because the state of emergency has to be extended by 30-day increments, and so the governor keeps extending the state of emergency. And we're entering flu season, but you want to go back into the building. It's really odd.
Well, and it's not like getting the flu does not make you exempt from COVID. You could potentially have COVID and the flu at the same time, and then you're really up a creek. Yeah,
exactly. And just think about the psychological impact. So every time someone sneezes or coughs, then everybody's going to be like, oh my God, it's just, it's wild
freaking
to me.
out. Yeah. I went, so I'm about to move to Austin. And so this week I've been trying to just like soak up New York as much as I can. And the Circle Line cruises are open. And so I was like, I've never done that. Like, that sounds really nice. And I checked on their website. And of course, the policy is like, you have to wear a mask while you're on board. And I was like, great.
Yeah.
I'm awesome. I'm in. And I go and they make the announcement at the beginning, like, make sure that you're wearing a mask. And then they did nothing to enforce it. So I spent the entire cruise just like moving constantly, trying to avoid people not wearing masks.
Oh,
all right, this is where the game starts to get. Oh, and there it goes. it's level 16 that just maxes me out, and then I'm like, it jumps up from like 60% brain requirement to like 85 or 90, and then I start to lose the conversation. What was I talking about? Oh, right, the boat. So yeah, so it just was, and it was just so. Yeah, it was so frustrating and stressful, and I kind of hated it. And, you know, it was nice to be out on the river, and it was nice to see the city. And, of course, I couldn't get my camera to take good nighttime pictures, and I don't know. So it was just left with a generally bad taste in my mouth. And then today I went to the Met Museum, which is also open. You have to, like, book your start time online so that, you know, they don't get overloaded all at once. Mm-hmm. And I went in and, like, 2 different times people tried to take their masks off. Like, one guy was just looking at he was trying to read a thing, and I think it was fogging up his glasses, so he just pulled it down past his nose, and immediately somebody was like, please cover your nose with your mask. And he got all pissy about it, and I was just like, thank you. And then the other one, the roof deck is open, and somebody up there tried to take their mask off, and the person working came over and was like, no. And the guy was like, I'm outside. And he goes, the person that was working there was like, well, you're on museum property, and those are the rules.
Yep.
And I went over and I told them, I was like, I just want to say thank you so much, because I did this boat thing yesterday, and it was terrible.
It's horrible. And that's so great, because usually I go to some place and the people working in the establishment have their masks pulled down below. You know,
because they're just tired of it.
I mean, I understand, but come on.
Yeah. All right. Okay, Jeff Brister is watching. Welcome, Jeff. What did Hassani say? Me watching a TV at night. One more episode times 100. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, it's hard to turn the TV off at night. Okay, so how do you teach? Wait, what grade do you teach?
So, fun for me. I teach kindergarten and I teach 5th grade.
Huh, okay.
Now, the 5th graders aren't too bad. If it's a 5th grader that wants to be there, you know, I can draw them in. I can lure them in slowly.
Yeah.
You know, but the kindergartners, if they're not there, like they have to have a parent there. And I just feel so for the parents, you know, because, or whoever, or the parents have to get someone there, because you're like, honey, share your screen, sweetie. Okay, love, mute yourself, love. Okay, pumpkin, would you know? No, okay, yes, I see that animal. And so when you see those little, you know, skits on YouTube about this is what teachers do, it is so true.
Painful. It's so true. Well, so my niece and nephew, during the quarantine part of all of this, were living at my mom's house with, like, their dad was also there. But my mom was basically a full-time parent from March until like last week. And now the kids are back at in-person school, but my niece just started kindergarten and my nephew just started 4th grade. And my nephew is like, he can't focus. He's exactly like I was when I was a kid. Like, I had no attention span whatsoever. I just didn't care. I don't know what it changed. But my mom, like, it was so funny because she had been doing so well having the kids there with her. And then they started school and I called her like the second day that they did virtual school for a few weeks and then they went back to in-person, I think this week or last week. And after like 2 days of virtual school, I called her and she was just like, I can't, I need to go to bed. And I was like, it's 6:30. And she was like, I don't care. I'm going to bed. I was like, oh my gosh. It just beat her to a pulp. And she was like, we're sending them to Houston to go to school with her other grandparents. Like, I can't deal. Like, I need a break already.
Oh my gosh.
But I mean, it's funny too, because it's, my mom never intended to have small children. She did her parenting job many years ago, and it was like, I'm done. I'm retired. I'm living my best life. And then it's like, also now you need to like babysit a kindergartner and a fourth grader while they attend school on the internet.
Yeah. That's a lot. I mean, the ones who planned on having them are like, hey, it's a lot. It really is. And it takes so much. It takes concentration from the students. It takes patience from the adult or parent that's at home trying to help them. And it takes so much energy from the teachers because, you're trying to engage anywhere from 15 to 25 students at a time virtually.
Yeah. My mom said with the kindergartners, my niece actually does really well. Like, she can pay attention and focus, but her classmates will start to like one kid will raise their hand and the teacher will call on that kid and that kid will be like, oh, I have a puppy. Do you want to see my puppy? And she's like, no, that's for later. That's for after we finish, And then she tries to get back and then another kid is like, wait, Miss Brown, and then she's like, yes. And the kid is like, I love you, Miss Brown. And she's like, I love you too, but let's all try to focus. So unless you have a question about and then as that starts to happen, then my niece is just like, I can't deal with these children. I think she was born like 16 and she's probably going to stay 16 until she's like 40. She's gonna be a lot to handle, but she's good people.
It's true, but it is a lot for everyone to handle. So I empathize with her.
Yeah, that's amazing.
This is so weird that I'm sitting here watching someone play Tetris. So you said you're on your original machine, and so my aunt got my mother Nintendo back in 1875 or whenever they came out.
Yeah.
And it was the first electronic game that my mother played. And girl, she would play it so feverishly and so neurotically. I was like, I don't know. I think maybe you need to find a 12-step program. Like, she was totally just like, she would just play it and play it and play it. And so it's so weird. Here I am these years later on a show where we're talking with Tetris. It's like,
nope, it's wild. I had the idea that I was like, somehow I want to do some sort, because people live stream games, right? Like, there are people that make a living literally just playing games and streaming it to Twitch. And I was like, the only game that I have any interest in is Tetris. And I don't even think that that's ever going to connect to the computer. And then I was like, can it? So I started doing the research, and then people were like, just buy a mini. But then you also have to hack into it because it doesn't come with Tetris. So you have to like break into the system to allow it to illegally download I was like, this sounds all kinds of wrong and difficult. And then I just found like you can get an RCA to HDMI adapter and it worked great. And I had to get a bunch of other, like, technically this show, the premise of this show is so ridiculously simple and straightforward, but the technical stuff is so involved. Like, that's why it took me, I think it was my fourth show that finally went exactly the way I wanted the tech to go, because it just kept like, it was like, oh, I thought this was going to work, but then when I plugged that in, it made this other thing do this other thing, and so now I got to compensate with this other thing. It was just like, oh my gosh. But I got there. We're there now. It's happening.
You're there now. So
yep.
Still there.
Okay, so I want to talk about, because human resources management, right? That's one of the master's degrees.
MBA with the HR emphasis. Yes.
Okay. So I'm curious because, like, when we talked, when I was trying to figure out all the Friends of Andy stuff, which is still going to happen at some point, and I am still going to reach out to you, but I was like, the biggest thing was just realizing, like, even just making this show in the beginning, it was like 7 or 8 hours a week of me trying to figure out how the hell to make this thing work. So I was like, if I'm trying to launch where I'm going to be doing 3 or 4 shows a week, this is going to be my full-time job, and I don't get paid for any of this stuff. So I was like, okay, I got to pace myself. I got to start finding, like, work that will pay, and then prioritize, like, the shows I'm most excited about to do next.
Right.
But anyway, but we were talking about, like, especially when it comes to diversity and inclusion, like things where, like I'm queer, so I have definitely felt very othered, and so I'm very aware of that. Like, I feel like I notice when people are made to feel like they are other than whatever the norm or the majority or whatever. So that's always been important to me. But there's a lot of stuff that I just don't know because it's, I'm a white woman in America. Even if I do all the reading and whatever, I'm going to have my holes in my knowledge. But especially because you teach elementary school, I'm really curious, like, what you recommend as far as, like, how you start teaching young people about racism and, like, how to be anti-racist. And I know there are a bunch of books that I have, like, earmarked that I'm like, all right, when I get to Texas and I'm closer to my niece and nephew, I need to order all these books and read them with the kids and da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, like, where do you start for kids who are maybe not as excited about books, but are open to conversation, but they're not necessarily gonna be like, oh, can we read that anti-racism book again?
Right,
Like,
right.
like, I'm like, I don't know how excited my niece and nephew will be about that.
Let's read that one about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I will say that today's children's shows do a really good job having purple people and yellow people and brown people and gray, or Sesame Street where it's monsters or birds or grouches or and so thankfully that really helps a lot. And from there, I think that if folks just got an assortment of picture books, like just picture books, you don't even need words because we take things in subconsciously. And we take things in experientially. It's not always about the words. So even just magazines and picture books and shows or with just various all different kinds of people. And then for me, it's so interesting you say how you talk about anti-racism. So I've been kind of co-facilitating an anti-racism group for the last 12 weeks actually.
Nice. What? Who's involved with that? Is it just like people that you knew, friends, etc.?
It was a friend of mine who pastors a church. We share information, and she was like, "Actually, I've got a member who's really been wanting to have some deep dive conversations about racism. Is that something you would be, And so then I talked with them, and then it ended up. I was like, "Okay, sure," and it was been quite interesting. But we were talking about the fact that for me, anti-racism itself feeds and perpetuates the delusion of separateness. So I don't even use the word race. Like when I'm doing things, I talk about cultural competency or cultural awareness or cultural consciousness or cultural compassion, because it's just different cultures. There's one race that's called human. And so just to use the word racism it's still giving a lot of power to something that doesn't exist.
That separates us more than.
And so for me, I'm not anti-racism. I'm just pro-cultural consciousness or pro-cultural, and so that's the way that I talk with everybody. My stepson, when he was young and he goes someplace and I would say, well, how was it? And were the kids nice? And was the adult nice or this, that? And I would ask, well, what color were they? And he would give me, some were peach and some were tan. And there were some that was a little brown and some that was, because for him, that's how, we would talk about different hues. And so that's all color was for him. So he noticed it and was able to appreciate and point out the differences. Yeah. But the color itself didn't have anything to do with a separateness. It was just like flowers. We like all flowers, and they just come in different colors.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's something I like. My niece and nephew. I would say that their school is pretty diverse. Houston is a very international city, right? Like you've got all these like hospitals and medical centers. So you have people from all over the world moving to Houston to work there or sometimes to get treatment there. And then their kids end up in all the different schools all over the city. But it's not an international school, but I feel like they really do put a lot of emphasis on like trying to understand what life is like for other people and trying to be conscientious about that. But like they still tend to fall into their same circles where it's like, oh, all the kids in their neighborhood kind of all look and act the same, and all of the, you know, which like for me, that was one of the hardest things about growing up in Texas, was just like being gay and being in a neighborhood where like I fit in perfectly there. Like I look the part. I'm just like a sweetheart gal next door. Like, you know, I never rustled any rustled. I never wrestled with any feathers.
You didn't rustle them or ruffle them.
I did neither. But it was like being gay and growing up in that environment. Like I definitely was aware of the ways in which I was different, and in the ways in which I didn't feel like I belonged, and that I might potentially be hated on for things that were not in my control. And so it was like, I want them to know that like, yes, a lot of the people around you have a lot of similarities, but that doesn't mean that that's the way to be. Like it's not wrong, but it's not the only thing, you know? So like I love telling them about New York because, you know, like today I think I saw three humans who I think somebody, you know, who was going to assign pronouns to people would probably call them men. But they were wearing nail polish, or they were wearing dresses or things, but they still had like masculine haircuts, or still, you know, where it's like in the South, like that's something probably my niece and nephew have never seen. And I want them to know that that's a thing, that it's like, yeah, you can be like, I'm a boy and I want to paint my nails. And I'm going to be like, great, what color do you want? You know, like, and I don't want them to be judgmental when they see it. Cause I've definitely I've picked up on little things every once in a while where like my nephew is the sweetest kid. Like he really is so empathetic and so kind, but there's so much that he just hasn't experienced. And so sometimes I can see his face where he's like, wait, you would do what? Like just the idea of like a lifestyle that is not something he has personally seen himself, where he's just like, oh, that seems weird. And I'm like, is it weird or is it just different from what you know? And it's like, oh, well, okay, that's a point. Like,
and right, and see, that's it. So if we're teaching our children to value curiosity and value variances and value, then they look for those things. And those are things that we can just teach in everyday life on a nature walk. Okay, let's walk next to this creek and see how many different kind of rocks we see. Let's look at the birds and see how many different kind of birds we see. Let's do this, let's do that. It can happen. And watching television, like so not only did I go back and finish The Good Place, but I also went back and finished once it came on Schitt's Creek.
Oh, see, I started that and then I didn't stick with it enough to get through like their and I mean they've even said like it started off rough and they needed time to kind of grow into it and figure out what it was. And I need to go back and pick it back up again.
Great show. It addresses ageism, sexism, classism. We've got pansexual people, we've got polyamorous people, we've got, and the fact that they're pansexual or polyamorous or queer or whatever is just as important as it is as if they wear their hair straight or curl. Like it's just so normalized, and that's what we need to expose our children to. Like someone asked me, well, how did you come out? And I was like, I sent out invitations to my wedding. And they're like, to a man? I was like, no, to a woman. It didn't occur to me that I needed to sit people down and say, well, I need to have
something to share with you. Yeah.
It's like I'm getting married.
Yeah. I read a thing that in France, so I started a podcast that's called Gay or Nay. And we talk about pre-Stonewall historical figures who historians would just slap on the term straight and cis. But when you actually read about them, you're like, oh, she was a spinster for a long time? Or did she have a woman roommate who lived with her for 15 years, you know?
Right.
So it's like we really dive into their stories and we talk about queer history, and then we try to redefine them using the queer terminology available in 2020. But one of the things that I was reading was in France, they don't like the term coming out like doesn't really translate to French because they're like, we don't really have that. Like you just say, here's the person I'm dating.
Yes.
And it's a woman, and that's fine.
Yes.
But it's like,
yes.
But I think there's also something though empowering, especially just because America's still struggling with a lot of hatred based on fear and based on ignorance. I think that there's a lot of power in coming out, in saying like, hey, I am that thing that you seem to think is bad, and I need you to know that because I need you to start to understand, like, it's not bad. Like, it's people you know and love. It's just, like, it's not what you think it is. So I think that there's power and importance in coming out if that's something that's important to you. I think everybody kind of has their own, you know, like, half the time it's...
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
For me, it was more about.
But I'm saying, like, it's not that I didn't come out, but you know what I mean? But you're right. For some people, it is important to have a conversation because, at least initially, it's so important to find out if you have a tribe. You know, it's so important to find out that, okay, am I going to be alone or am I going to have 2 or 3 or 4 people? You know?
Yeah.
And thankfully, I guess I had enough, I don't know, foolishness or naivete to think, okay, well, I don't know, some may jump ship, but I'll have a few, 4 or 5 left over. But.
Yeah. John, I'm glad you enjoyed the mail. Jeff, I'm glad you're enjoying the conversation. This is exciting. It's some of the folks who support me on Patreon are watching, which is great. I'm so grateful for, like, honestly, like, it's so like Patreon is like I'll give you money each month in exchange, like, just to help support the thing that you're making. And like, it's great, but it's more that I'm just like, oh, these people like care enough about the stuff I'm making that they're willing to put money behind it. And like, that to me means more. I mean, the money helps. Let's be real.
Yeah.
But yeah. No, I think, for me, I think coming out was like, I had so much internalized homophobia from just growing up around like Southern Christians in the 80s and 90s who largely, like, I mean, many of them still kind of use Christianity as a way
as a weapon.
I don't know what that means. Lassen car? I don't know. Sorry, there was a comment that didn't make any sense to me. Donated. I don't know. It's a chat message that says that someone donated money with a message, I am your fan, but I don't know what that, I've never gotten a donation on Twitch, so I don't really know what that means, but I guess I'll look into that later. No, I think, it was just like growing up in a Christian environment and having, like, I remember having a conversation with one of my closest friends, and she was, I went to church with her. Like, that was like our thing. I would join her to go to church because I just loved, like, that the whole family went, and then we all went out for lunch after. Like, it was just this like nice communal opportunity to connect and converse, and I loved that. But like, for me, I never, like, Jesus Christ is not my savior. Like, that, I never really bought into that. Like, I was like, that just doesn't feel right. Like, I just don't believe that. And we were having conversation about the car one day, and she was like, well, then I think you're going to hell. And I was like, what? Like, and I guess, I mean, technically that's the foundation of Christianity, is like, if Jesus Christ is your Lord and Savior, then you're going to heaven. And if not, then you're going to, and I don't know. I was like, oh, wow. Ouch. Like, that was kind of painful. But just like realizing, like, when you see somebody say something homophobic and nobody else says anything, and you're like, oh, I guess everyone agrees with this person.
Yes.
What?
Yes.
So for me, it was just like, and it didn't help that I was just like a sweetheart girl next door. Like, I kind of wish I'd been like a badass rebellious kid, because then it would have been like, I'm gonna make out with this chick just to piss everybody off, and then it would have been like, oh, actually, I liked that was good, I think that's just me. But instead it was like, no, I just want people to like me, I just like getting along with people and being friends with people. yeah, I don't know. So for me, it was important because it was like, I need to
Yeah.
be able to tell my story. And for me, that means like being able to put the words to it and own up to it and write the big gay blog post, which was how I came out because, you know, if you write a blog post, you can write and edit for 3 years before you finally commit to it. Not that I did that. That would be so weird. I did that. 100% I did that.
I love it. I mean, but we get to come out there over and over and over and over and over.
That's,
you know,
yeah. I had
in some way.
I have it's a cousin and a cousin's daughter, and the cousin's daughter is pansexual, and she like found herself in a situation where she's the producer on my podcast, and somebody had told someone else about the podcast, and so they informed that person also that my cousin was pansexual, and she was like, oh, okay, I guess she outed me for me. This is awkward. Huh. Like, she was like, it's not that I don't want them to know. It just felt weird that somebody else gave that out, you know, and it was like, oh, yeah. Like, I think and I've talked about this before. I need to actually just make the dang thing. But the idea of, like, a PSA for, like, how do I help my friend who I know is gay come out?
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like, okay, well, number one, you don't. Like, because it's not your story to tell. You can't know if they're like, that's not for you to do. So it's more like, okay, here's how you can show that, like, I'm supportive of queer people, and like, so that they get the vibe of like, oh, okay, cool. So at least I know you're not gonna hate me. But just the fact that it's like, you can't out someone. Like, that's one of the most harmful things that you can do, is just be like, just look, I know that you're gay. Why don't you just tell me already? That it's like, no, that person hasn't told you because they're not ready. And you're just like pushing them off a cliff, and they don't even know if they packed their parachute right.
Yeah.
You know, like, I don't know.
Yeah. And it's hard because, like, for me, I see being out, whatever that is. Somebody wrote something.
What? Oh, my face?
Yes.
Yeah, so, J Steele 89 said, why in the world are y'all in my recommended? I don't know, because we're awesome and we're having good conversations and playing Tetris.
Because you are lucky.
Oh, because they saw my my Big Papa cover. That have I told you about my looper covers?
No.
No, I do acapella covers on a looper. A looper is just like whatever you record once, it just plays it over and over and over again. But I get like ridiculously fancy with it. Like I have a master's in music. Like I studied music a million years. Like I know music.
Oh, yeah, you got professional loopers.
Yeah. But like looper, the only thing you can really do on a looper is like pop and rap, because everything else is like a different chord progression in the chorus and the bridge and and so it doesn't work. Like you need the repetitiveness. And pop music and rap have that. I mean, rap is literally built on loops. Like that was the origin of the whole, you know. But so I started doing covers, and like I do a little bit of everything, but actually the story of how I ended up doing that song, I was doing covers in Washington Square Park right after I moved here. And these like couple of guys, like young guys, they were in school to become music producers, and they were just like, what? Like they were totally impressed. They loved it. And they were like, do you know any Biggie? And I was like, I don't have any Biggie, but what song would you want me to do? And they were like, oh, maybe Big Papa. And I was like, all right, great. I'm going to work. And I went home and I recorded it. I posted it. Nobody watched it. It didn't go anywhere. And then randomly, like 2+ years later, somebody posted it on Reddit, and it made it to the front page of Reddit.
What?
And the title, how did they post? They posted it as like, white girl does impressive cover of Big Papa. And I was like, oh, come on. Like, I was like, no, this channel is not like, watch me make rap songs white and nerdy. And it's like, no, I mean, they're gonna be nerdy because I'm hardcore nerdy, and like that's just gonna happen. It's gonna be nerdy, but they're also gonna be impressive and well done, and like a respectful tip of the hat, not like, you know, let me rip off someone else's better thing.
Right.
But yeah, so that like blew up. It went viral. It was amazing. But
take your fame where you can get it, honey.
Yeah. Yeah. It's weird though because I should keep playing. I'm like I don't care anymore. I just want to talk now. Who cares about Tetris? This is dumb. No, it's become like it's a weird thing because there's so many problematic things out there where it's just people ripping off someone else's culture for their own gain. And so it's like, well, I don't know. How do I, as a white woman in 2020, do covers of a rap song without it just looking like I'm out to get, So it's like, I don't know. It's become this slippery slope. And I was like, you know what? I have all these other things I'm excited about. Maybe I'm going
Yeah,
to just
I'll
go
just
ahead
yeah,
and work on those other
yeah,
things. But at
yeah.
some point, the thing with rap for me is like, there's not like, it is the healthiest and most direct way for me to deal with my anger. Like, because I feel like rap came out of like a visceral kind of anger of like systemic oppression and just like being born into like, this is your path in life. And if you have any shot of getting out of it, like, good luck. And like, obviously I can't personally relate to that. I am very fortunate and privileged in very many ways,
Mhm,
but we
mhm.
all have anger. We all experience anger. And I
Yes.
think rap is like the number one genre of music that's like, oh, this is anger. Like Rage Against the Machine, awesome. But that's more
Yeah.
like when I just need to like scream really loud and then
Mhm.
cry and then move on with my day. But like
Yeah.
rap is where it's like that's the only way that I can tap into that. Like I did boxing classes for a while because I was like, I have got to learn, like I need some sort of way to tap into this and get
Wow.
it at physically express it from my body and get it out into the world so that I can be like, move on now. And boxing didn't work because it was like, I just don't
Wow.
feel angry. I'm excited to learn these like
Yes.
combinations and it's
Right.
like I'm too in my head. But when I
Right.
do like rap covers, especially on the looper, because it's kind of like Tetris where there's like 17 things going and I have to be so focused on it that I don't have time to doubt myself or judge myself. I just have to be as in that song as I can be. That it's like
Mhm.
I can express that anger and I can live it and I can get it out and I finish that
Yeah.
song and I'm just like, oh
Yeah.
man, like I
That's
feel
so
so much
interesting.
better. Yeah, but so it's like
Yeah.
like I want to honor that like need for myself to be like, well, I want to be able to
Yeah.
express that and I know that there are a lot of people like I mean that's the whole reason I have people on Patreon is that they're like your covers brought me so much joy. Like I shared them with a
Mhm.
friend who was having a bad time and now when she's sad, she just watches one of your covers and it makes her laugh. So I'm like, well, I don't want to not do that because I'm like walking
Right.
on eggshells or something. So it's like
Right.
trying to
Right.
find that way where you can like approach it and be culturally sensitive to recognize
Yes.
like okay I
Yes.
stand to gain from doing a
Yes.
cover of somebody else's original thing but then you also don't want to be like well I'm going to donate all of the proceeds to Black Lives Matter and try to make it like
Exactly.
now I'm putting on a front or so so it's like I don't know
Exactly.
how. I'm like I
Exactly.
donate a ton to Black Lives Matter but I'm not trying to like it's not because I'm doing the
Exactly.
da 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 da. It's like well
Yeah,
because
I feel you. It
things
is,
are messed up.
it's like, yeah, where is that fulcrum? Like how does it balance? But I'm a firm believer that, as they used to say, game knows game, what I'm saying? but vibe knows vibe. And so if you did a cover with that and it was that intimate, that sacred, that, visceral to release that anger, like the person the original author, composer of that song, I believe that they would feel that.
Yeah,
Like I
yeah,
think we're, if especially artists, we are equipped with that. They say we're
yeah,
developing into Homo sapiens sapiens, and I think we're a little further along because we understand that mystery and that which we cannot see, but that we can sense or feel. We can tell, and so I would just, that's generally what I do, and that's coming
yeah,
from a person who um, wants to think of herself as this very kind, compassionate human, but who has often offended people, and I was clueless. But when I go to them, I just say, hey, that really was not my intent, and I know that that doesn't make it hurt any less for you initially, but I want you to trust my heart. I want you to just
yeah,
be quiet and feel my vibration and
yeah.
see
Yeah.
if you can then use that to mitigate the damage that you incurred as a result of my action.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I think too, like it gets us into trouble when we worry too much about like offending people or about saying the wrong thing, because then we don't say anything and then we don't learn
Right.
from our mistakes. We just keep walking around ignorant and just not saying anything. And it's like, well, that's
Right.
not like, you know, you have to find the people you can trust to be like,
Yes.
can I say this thing that might be stupid and get your
Exactly.
opinion? And can you tell me if I'm stupid? And if I am, like, where can I learn to not be so
Exactly.
stupid? Like, point me in the right direction. But it's,
Exactly.
you know, finding people that are willing to do that for you and not just
Yes.
expecting that, like, because I'm gay, I'm going to answer all of your gay questions.
Yes.
Like, maybe I'm just
Yes.
not feeling that today and I don't want to be your
Yes.
one gay friend.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
It's so
No.
true. So true.
That's, I think there's, I don't know if it was the Biggie cover or a different one, but like, oh, no, somebody requested NWA. They wanted me to do an NWA cover. And then somebody else replied to it like, NWA would be pissed off if they knew that you were a fan. And I was like, 100% they would not. Like, in
Right.
fact, if I was like, if I did a cover of one of their songs on my looper, they might not like it. They might not enjoy my cover, but they would be hella impressed with my skills and my ability
Hello.
to do the cover. Like, you know, it's like, because they would understand what's involved in
love
doing
it.
it, like how much effort has to go into learning and doing this. And they'd be like, well, we know we got at least 100 more listens on Spotify this month because Rebecca had to listen to that song over and over again.
And that's what I was thinking when you were talking. I'm like, hey, so that would be, they should be flattered, first of all, because who wants to do crap? Nobody wants to do crap music. And it's
Yeah.
going to bring awareness to their music because people that,
Yeah.
you know, are going to, so.
It reminds, yeah, that's, everybody, like, I think that was, for a long time, that was like the description of my Biggie cover was like, if you enjoyed this cover, please go listen to the original because it's a lot better. I was like, I know my plays. Like, this is fun and it's impressive, but it's not like, I'm not putting this on a playlist to play at a party or something.
right.
Like, that's not happening.
Right. I feel you.
Yeah. It's my, John says, it is more than just your covers. It's that you bring joy. I appreciate that,
See?
John. That's
Thanks,
what, like,
John.
that's my goal. That's just, I just want to make things that help bring people together and bring us all a little joy. Because, like, even when the world is not ending like it is right now, we still need extra joy.
Yes.
Now maybe more so than normal, but
We used
you
to
know.
have extra joy. Now we're trying to just, you know, get to half of the tank right now. So
We're
we
just
need
looking
as-
for survival.
Yes. We need as many covers or blankets or quilts or duvets or whatever you can come up with. Okay.
I love the idea that I'm not a music covers act. I'm a music duvet act.
Yes. Yes. This woman is a duvet. Show your respect.
I've elevated myself beyond just covers.
That's right. She's not merely cover. No.
I'm all of the bedding now.
She's a bed in a bag, okay? No.
I'm not a snack. I'm the whole meal version of
Hey,
being.
watch yourself. Watch yourself, auntie. Yes.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yes.
Man, you're delightful.
I'm so glad to do this on my birthday week.
I know. Yes, Wednesday is Kim's birthday. You can all follow her on Facebook as well as YouTube. Wait, what is it called again?
Enlightened Emergence.
Thank you. Okay. I was like, I just wrote it like 3 minutes ago, putting it in, and I'm already, my brain is like Tetris. Words? What does enlightened emergence mean?
Enlightened Emergence is my the flip side of the you name it coin. Anti-racism, anti-sexism, anti-classism. It's like when we become enlightened, then we emerge and we evolve to that which we were created to be. And so it's coming together and recognizing that we are mystical beings that also happen to be, as Carl Sagan would say, the universe aware of itself. And that is freaking amazing and like science fiction all on its own. And that if we came together and found out what each person needed to be fully alive, like we really would have a united federation of planets. Okay, I'm gonna calm down. But
please don't. Go off, as the kids say.
But yeah, it's just right. It's just the 21st century attempt at community. That's what it is in a nutshell.
Nice. I love that. Well, that sounds like what I liked about church when I was young, even though I was like, I don't believe in anything that they're saying, but I like that we get to come together and learn and try to grow together until they were like, gay people are bad. And then I was like, I don't think I like this place.
And that's the thing, you know, I started teaching Sunday school when I was 12. 12 years old. No one should teach anything when they're 12 because you're an idiot. First of all, okay? That I don't mean, I'm not malicious. If there are any 12-year-olds watching, hey, trust me. In 15 years, you'll say, oh, I was an idiot. And then 15 years from then, you'll say, oh, I was an idiot. I mean, life is just a succession of idiotic things. So I don't mean that derogatorily, but, you know, so yeah, I started teaching when I was 15 and at 12. And of course, at that age, you're just like you're like the mama bird that takes the food and then regurgitates it. And
But it's like a game of telephone where it's slightly rearranged and not quite as logical. And it's like,
so slightly, you know. So can you imagine, like my little sister, like I was her Sunday school teacher, and I'm teaching her, oh yeah, you shouldn't be lesbian or gay or, you know. And then I'm like, oh, guess what? I'm marrying a woman.
Like, wait, but what about that thing you said a long time ago?
Yes,
You're
that's
like,
exactly
what
she said. What? I was like, yeah, that was stupid. I was just saying stuff other people had told me. That doesn't even make sense.
I was 12. It doesn't count.
So, yeah, real stuff, okay? Real stuff. But, so yeah. And that same sister, she just threw me such a delightful event. Oh, Becky, you would have loved it. Not only did she go overboard, period, but my special gift was a live violinist to come and play while we were here.
Oh, this week?
Yes, it was Saturday.
Aww. What did they play? Did they play like any particular things that you were like, I gotta hear this? Or it was like, just make beautiful music?
This is I'm gonna tell too much. So my sister comes and she says, so this is your special gift. And I looked up and I said, oh, and she said, not the man. He's gonna play. I was like, oh.
You're like, all right, fine.
So she was like, don't you make that man nervous. Don't you make that man nervous. So but he played covers, duvets. I don't know if they were duvets, but they may have been spreads. So he played covers and he did a couple of original pieces. Yeah, you know, and some R&B covers in a jazz tone. And
was he playing with like a track or something? Like, did he have accompaniment, or was it just solo violin?
He had accompaniment.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and he played. So it was really cool. Really cool.
Nice.
And Rachel's mom came.
Really? Aw, Rachel's the mutual friend who introduced it. Because you two grew up together in St. Louis, right? Like, you were schoolmates?
Yes, middle school.
Nice. I'm trying to think who do I know from middle school still? No, that's not true. I have one friend actually who lives in Austin who will be like my only like human Austin connection when I get there.
Really?
And we've known it because she lived down the street from me when we moved right after 7th grade, and we rode the bus together. So we became friends because we were literally the only people we knew that lived within like 3 miles of each other. So it's just kind of like, well, I guess we're best friends now.
Right?
But we also happen to get along. So that was nice.
That was great.
Funny. All right. Well, do you have any other, we're going to wrap it up. Do you have any other things that you are like, that you want to bring up or share?
This is so cool and weird. And
that's my jam. That's what I do. Cool and weird.
I feel feel like, to be honest though, I'm gonna get kind of new agey, on you
Great.
for a minute, but
I'll take it.
I feel like this is just one of the ways, yet another way, that the universe is telling me that the next 50 are gonna be just as dope as the first 50.
I think so.
I think so.
I can't think of any reason that I could or would ever want to disagree with that. So yeah, I think 100%. I feel like we are headed toward good things as a universe of humans.
Yeah,
I don't know.
This will be the great purging. This will separate the wheat from the tare. This will make women of girls and men of boys, and maybe girls of boys and women of men. This will, this is gonna be it.
Whatever your gender identity, this is gonna put a little hair on your chest.
Yes. Or at my age, on your chin. Okay, so.
Oh, I relate. I have like a little scar here, and it routinely gets like, I get one black hair just in the exact same place every time. And the other day, I was like, I cannot get this hair off of there's a hair tickling my lip, and I cannot get, it was a nose hair. It was an attached nose hair.
I was going to say, it's called a mustache. A mustache.
I was like, I don't like it.
Embrace it, honey. Embrace it. Lean into it.
Oh, John, you're from St. Louis. I don't know that have I ever been to St. Louis?
Get to the loot. It's getting hot in here. So take off all your clothes. I am getting so hot. I want to take my clothes. You're so easy. You're so easy. You're just like my students. All I have to do is...
That's what all the ladies say. Just kidding, they don't. I'm a prude. Yeah. No, I like, there was, at some point I thought I was going to go to St. Louis. I think my tour like came close, but then it didn't. I don't think it actually went through I know we were in Kansas City, and I don't remember if we were on the Kansas side or the Missouri side, but it was not a highlight on the tour. For many reasons, but that had nothing to do with the city probably. Yeah. No, I want to go to St. Louis. I also want to go to Egypt now, because I went to that Egypt section of the meeting, and now I'm like, well, I should go there. There's no reason not to, like COVID or not having money to go there.
I was going to say, actually, I was planning to go. I was going to do this thing. We were going to do family vacation next year, and I was supposed to be planning it this year. But it's hard to plan for.
Yeah, you can start like tentatively outlining, like, when we have vaccines and the world is safe again, this will be what we will do, but you can't like book anything.
I was supposed to be in Italy tonight, but for my birthday, but you know how that goes. So
I bought this phone. I upgraded to this phone because my old phone had a terrible camera. And I didn't really care because I have my fancy camera, so I was like, that's fine. But we were going to go to Disney World last April with my niece and nephew. And I was like, I'm not going to lug that camera all over Disney World. I needed something I can get quick pictures and videos because I want to remember this. But I'm not taking my fancy camera.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, this has been fun.
Yeah, this has been a delight. I'm gonna bring you back for some things. I got all kinds of show ideas that I'm looking forward to. So yeah, you'll be back soon. Thanks everyone for joining us, John and Jeff and Hassani, and who was the Jay Steele, and then whoever this person was that said something about a donation with "I am your fan." I don't know.
Who that is.
Oh, Nick Staggart, according to YouTube. What? I don't understand any of that. There's still a lot of technology things that are like, woo, right over the head. All right. Thank you so much, Kim.
All right. Thanks so much.
Thanks everybody for watching. I will not be streaming a week from tonight I'll be back in like sometime in November, but I have a couple videos hopefully that I'll post before then. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I'll do another rap cover soon.
Yes.
Why not? All right. Mwah. Thank you so much.
Bye.